You're carrying dead weight, and it's killing your potential. Right now, there's something, or someone, in your life that's draining your energy, clouding your judgment, and keeping you stuck exactly where you are. Maybe it's a relationship that ended months ago but still occupies mental real estate. Maybe it's a friendship that's turned toxic but you're holding on out of loyalty or history. Maybe it's career disappointment you can't let go of, or resentment towards someone who wronged you years ago. Whatever it is, it's like trying to run a marathon with a 50-pound weight vest. You might be moving forward, but you're exhausting yourself and you'll never reach your full speed. Here's what most guys don't understand. Letting go isn't about giving up or being weak. It's about being strategic with your finite resources, your time, your energy, your attention, your emotional capacity. It's about recognizing that holding onto certain people, situations, or grievances is actively preventing you from building the life you actually want. Think about your phone's storage. When it's full of old photos, unused apps, and cached data, it slows down everything. The solution isn't to buy a phone with unlimited storage, it's to delete what you don't need. Your mental and emotional capacity works the same way. The ancient Stoics understood this better than anyone. They weren't emotionally detached hermits. They were some of the most successful and powerful men in history. Marcus Aurelius ran an empire. Seneca was one of the wealthiest men in Rome. They succeeded not despite practicing detachment, but because of it. They understood that attachment to the wrong things is a liability, not a strength. That true freedom comes from knowing what to hold on to and what to release. That you can't grasp new opportunities while your hands are full of things that no longer serve you. In this video, I'm breaking down 17 practical strategies for mastering the art of detachment. These aren't philosophical theories. They're actionable tactics you can implement today to free yourself from whatever's holding you back and create space for what you actually want to build. If you're ready to stop carrying dead weight and start moving through life with purpose and clarity, drop a comment saying, "Let go to grow." And subscribe to Strength Within, because we're building a community of men who understand that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is release what's weighing you down. Let's get into it. Strategy 1. Create intentional distance. Here's something most guys resist but desperately need. Sometimes you have to physically and emotionally distance yourself from people or situations to gain clarity. This doesn't mean ghosting everyone or running away from your problems. It means strategically creating space so you can think clearly instead of being caught in the emotional vortex of constant interaction. When you're too close to something, a relationship, a job, a situation, your perspective gets distorted. You can't see the forest for the trees. You rationalize. You make excuses. You convince yourself things are better or worse than they actually are. Distance provides perspective. It allows your rational mind to catch up with your emotional reactions. It gives you the breathing room to evaluate whether something is actually serving you or just comfortable and familiar. I know someone in his early 30s who had a group of friends from college that he'd maintained for years. Every weekend was the same routine: bar hopping, talking about the same old stories, complaining about the same problems without ever actually addressing them. He didn't even realize how much energy this was draining until he took a job in another city for 6 months. The physical distance forced a reset, and when he came back, he saw the dynamic clearly for the first time. These weren't bad people, but the friendship had become stagnant. They were all keeping each other stuck in a pattern that served no one. He didn't dramatically cut everyone off, but he did reset the terms of engagement: less frequent interaction, more intentional when they did connect, and a conscious choice not to fall back into the old patterns. How to implement this? Identify what needs distance. What person, place, or situation do you need space from? Be honest. Or are you getting pulled into patterns that don't serve you? Set boundaries around contact. This might mean limiting how often you see certain people, not responding immediately to every text, declining invitations that you know will drain you. Use the space productively. Distance alone isn't enough. Fill that space with activities, people, and pursuits that actually align with your goals and values. Reassess after time has passed. After some distance, evaluate with fresh eyes. Is this something I want back in my life? On what terms? Or is this something I'm better off releasing completely? The key is being intentional. Distance for the sake of avoidance doesn't help, but strategic distance for the sake of clarity and perspective is one of the most powerful tools you have. Strategy 2. Distinguish between needs and wants. This distinction is fundamental, and most guys have never seriously thought about it. A need is something essential for your well-being, growth, and survival. Food, shelter, meaningful relationships, purpose, health, safety. These are non-negotiables. A want is everything else. It might enhance your life. It might feel important, but it's not essential. The problem is that our consumer culture has spent billions of dollars convincing you that your wants are actually needs. That you need the latest tech, the luxury car, the status symbols, the perfect relationship, the dream job, the Instagram-worthy lifestyle. You don't. Those are wants. And confusing wants with needs creates endless attachment and dissatisfaction. When you think you need something that's actually a want, you give it power over you. You become desperate. You make compromises you shouldn't make. You hold on to things that aren't serving you because you've convinced yourself you can't live without them. Here's a practical example. A guy I know was in a relationship that wasn't working. They fought constantly, had fundamentally different values, weren't sexually compatible, but he kept trying to make it work because he'd convinced himself he needed this relationship. I need companionship. I need a partner. I need someone. Those feelings are valid. But the specific relationship, that was a want, not a need. He wanted it to work out with this particular person, but he didn't need it to. Once he made that distinction, he could evaluate the relationship rationally. Is this relationship actually meeting my genuine needs for companionship, growth, and partnership? Or am I just holding on because I want this specific thing to work out? The answer was clear once he framed it properly, and letting go became possible. How to make this distinction? List your actual needs. What do you genuinely require for well-being? Be ruthlessly honest. It's probably a shorter list than you think. Examine your attachments for each thing you're struggling to let go of. Ask, is this a need or a want? Would my life actually fall apart without it, or would it just be different? Practice gratitude for what you have. When you focus on what you already have that meets your genuine needs, wants become less compelling. Question the narrative when you catch yourself saying, I need, about something that's not essential. Correct yourself. I want this, but I don't need it. That small linguistic shift changes everything. This isn't about denying yourself things you want. It's about being clear on the difference so you're not held hostage by attachments to non-essential things. Strategy 3. Apply cold logic to emotional situations. Emotions are data. They provide valuable information about your values, your needs, your responses to situations. But they're terrible decision makers. When you're emotionally invested in something, a relationship, a job, a goal, a grudge, your emotions will give you 1,000 reasons why you should hold on. They'll rationalize. They'll remember only the good parts. They'll magnify the risks of change and minimize the costs of staying stuck. This is where cold, hard logic becomes essential. I'm not saying become emotionless. I'm saying balance your emotional reactions with rational analysis. Make decisions with both head and heart, not just heart. Here's how this works practically. Let's say you're considering whether to stay in a job that's making you miserable. Your emotions might say, but what if I can't find anything better? What if I fail? At least this is stable. Logic would ask different questions. What are the actual measurable costs of staying? Health impact, lost opportunity, skills not developing, financial ceiling. What are the actual probabilities of the feared outcomes? Based on market data, your qualifications, actual evidence, what's the best case scenario if I make a change? Worst case. Most likely case. What will staying versus leaving look like in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years? I know a financial analyst in Boston who used this approach with a failing relationship. He was emotionally attached, years of history, shared friends, the comfort of familiarity. Every time he considered ending it, his emotions overwhelmed him with fear and nostalgia. So he forced himself to approach it analytically. He made a spreadsheet, yes, literally with measurable criteria. Communication quality rated 110 based on specific indicators, shared values alignment, yes-no on major life priorities, growth trajectory. Is each person becoming better or worse? Conflict resolution effectiveness, measured by outcomes, not intentions. Physical and emotional intimacy, honest assessment. When he looked at the data objectively, the answer was clear. The relationship scored poorly on nearly every meaningful metric. His emotions were attached to what the relationship used to be and what he hoped it could become, not what it actually was. That logical analysis gave him the clarity to make a decision his emotions couldn't make. How to apply this? Create distance from the emotion when facing a decision about whether to let something go. Give yourself 24-48 hours before deciding. This allows the initial emotional surge to settle. List pros and cons objectively, not how you feel about them, but actual measurable impacts. Makes me feel secure isn't objective. Provides X salary and health insurance is objective. Consider opportunity cost. What are you not doing because you're holding on to this? What opportunities are you missing? What person could you become if this wasn't consuming your energy? Get external perspective. Talk to someone who isn't emotionally invested. They can often see clearly what you can't. Logic doesn't have all the answers, but it provides essential balance to emotional reasoning. Use both. Strategy 4. Embrace change as the only constant. Fighting change is like fighting gravity. You'll lose every time and you'll exhaust yourself in the process. Everything changes. Your body, your interests, your relationships, your career, your circumstances, the world around you. Literally everything is in constant flux. Yet most guys spend enormous energy resisting this reality. They want things to stay the way they are or the way they used to be. They hold on to relationships that have run their course. They cling to versions of themselves that no longer fit. They resist the natural evolution of their lives. This resistance creates suffering, not the change itself, the resistance to it. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about the nature of change and the foolishness of resisting it. He governed the most powerful empire in the world, yet he understood he couldn't control the fundamental flux of existence. His strategy wasn't to fight change. It was to flow with it while maintaining his core principles. Here's a modern example. I know someone who built a successful career in print journalism. For years, he was at the top of his field. Then the industry collapsed. Digital media decimated traditional journalism. Everything changed. He had two options: resist the change, complain about how things used to be, and hold onto a dying industry, or accept the new reality and adapt. He chose adaptation, used his journalism skills to build a successful content marketing consultancy, made more money, had more freedom, and found new purpose. But it required accepting that the world he knew was gone and wasn't coming back. How to embrace change. Recognize your resistance. Where are you fighting reality? What are you trying to keep the same that wants to change? Notice the resistance without judgment. Ask, what's trying to emerge? Instead of mourning what's ending, get curious about what's beginning. What new version of your life is trying to be born? Practice letting go regularly. Don't wait for major disruptions. Practice releasing small things regularly. Clothes you don't wear, relationships that have run their course, beliefs that no longer serve you. This builds your capacity for bigger releases. Find what's unchanging while circumstances change. Your core values and character can remain stable. Anchor yourself in these, not in external conditions. Change isn't your enemy. Resistance to change is. When you stop fighting the inevitable flow of life and learn to navigate it skillfully, you free yourself from enormous suffering. Strategy 5. Focus ruthlessly on what actually matters. Your time, energy, and attention are finite, extremely finite. You've got maybe 4,000 weeks on this planet if you're lucky, and you're probably using a significant portion of those finite resources on things that don't matter, relationships that add nothing to your life, activities that don't align with your values, possessions you don't use, grudges you've been carrying for years, social obligations that serve no purpose, mental loops about things you can't control. All of this is waste, pure waste of your most precious resources. The solution isn't to try to do everything better or more efficiently. It's to ruthlessly eliminate what doesn't matter so you can focus on what does. I know an entrepreneur in Austin who had this realization. He was constantly busy, meetings, networking events, social obligations, side projects, maintaining a huge network of acquaintances. But he was exhausted and making no real progress on what mattered, building his business and spending time with his family. He did a radical audit. For every activity, relationship, and commitment, he asked, "Does this directly contribute to my two main priorities, business and family?" If the answer was no, he cut it, declined social invitations, stopped attending networking events, reduced his social circle from hundreds of casual connections to about 15 meaningful relationships, eliminated side projects that weren't going anywhere. The result? Massive improvement in both business and family life. Not because he worked harder, but because he focused his finite resources on what actually mattered. How to implement ruthless focus. Define your actual priorities, not what you think they should be. What they actually are. Most guys can identify 2-3 things that genuinely matter most. Audit everything against those priorities, every relationship, activity, commitment, possession. Does it serve your real priorities or not? Practice saying no to invitations, opportunities, requests that don't align with your priorities. Saying no to good things allows you to say yes to great things. Accept that you can't do everything, you will miss out on things. Some relationships will fade. Some opportunities will pass. That's not failure, that's focus. The guys who accomplish meaningful things aren't the ones who try to do everything. They're the ones who figured out what matters and eliminated everything else. Strategy 6. Accept impermanence. Everything ends. Every relationship, every job, every phase of life, every version of yourself. And ultimately, your life itself. This isn't pessimistic, it's liberating. When you truly internalize that everything is temporary, you stop clinging so desperately. You appreciate what you have while you have it, but you don't delude yourself into thinking it will last forever. This acceptance makes letting go infinitely easier. Because you're not fighting against the natural order of things. The Stoics practiced memento mori, remember that you will die, not to be morbid but to create perspective. When you remember that your time is limited, you stop wasting it on things that don't matter. Here's a practical application. Think about a relationship or situation you're struggling to let go of. Now imagine you have 6 months to live. With that perspective, does holding on to this thing still seem important? Or does it suddenly become clear that you're wasting precious time on something that doesn't deserve it? How to practice acceptance of impermanence. Regular reflection on mortality. This sounds dark, but it's clarifying. Remind yourself regularly that your time is finite. This helps you detach from trivial concerns. Appreciate without attachment. Enjoy relationships, experiences, and possessions fully while you have them. But hold them lightly, knowing they're temporary. Let things run their natural course. Not everything needs to be saved or preserved. Sometimes the right thing is to let something end when its natural lifespan is complete. Focus on what you can control now. You can't control how long anything lasts. You can only control how you engage with it right now. Accepting impermanence doesn't make you cold or detached. It makes you present, appreciative, and free from the suffering that comes from clinging to what cannot be held. Strategy 7. Create new experiences. One of the most effective ways to detach from old patterns is to create new ones. You can't just subtract things from your life. You need to add things that are better. When you're stuck in familiar patterns with familiar people in familiar environments, everything feels permanent and unchangeable. But when you expose yourself to new experiences, you realize how much possibility exists beyond your current circumstances. New experiences do several things. They prove you can function outside your comfort zone. They introduce you to different perspectives and ways of living. They create new neural pathways that aren't associated with old patterns. They show you what else is possible. I know someone who was stuck in a toxic friend group that he'd known since high school. The relationships weren't serving anyone, but they were comfortable and familiar. He couldn't imagine life without these people. Then he joined a Brazilian jiu-jitsu gym. Completely new environment, new people, new challenge. Within a few months, he developed friendships with people who actually supported his growth. The old friend group suddenly seemed less essential because he'd created something new that was better. How to create new experiences. Try something completely unfamiliar, a sport you've never done, a hobby you've always been curious about, a place you've never been. Novelty breaks old patterns. Meet new people, join groups, take classes, attend events in areas that interest you. Expose yourself to people with different backgrounds and perspectives. Change your environment even temporarily. Travel, work from different locations, explore new parts of your city. Physical environment shapes mental patterns. Learn new skills. Learning something new creates confidence and shows you that you're capable of more than you thought. You're not creating new experiences to run away from old problems. You're creating them to prove to yourself that there's more to life than your current circumstances. That detaching from what's familiar doesn't mean losing everything. It means making space for something better. Strategy 8. Practice daily self-examination. Most guys go through life on autopilot, never really examining their patterns, choices, and attachments. This autopilot mode keeps you stuck in the same loops indefinitely. Daily self-examination breaks the autopilot. It creates awareness, and awareness is the prerequisite for change. The Stoics practiced this religiously. Marcus Aurelius journaled constantly, examining his thoughts and actions, not to beat himself up, but to see clearly what was working and what wasn't. This practice doesn't need to be complicated. 10-15 minutes of honest reflection is enough. Questions to ask yourself daily. What drained my energy today that didn't need to? Was there a person, activity, or thought pattern that consumed energy without providing value? What am I holding onto that I should release? What resentment, expectation, or attachment showed up today that's not serving me? Did my actions align with my stated priorities? Or did I say one thing matters while spending my time on something else? What pattern am I noticing? Are the same issues, triggers, or attachments appearing repeatedly? I know a product manager in Seattle who started this practice after recognizing he was constantly stressed but couldn't identify why. After 2 weeks of daily journaling, a clear pattern emerged. He was saying yes to every request at work, then resenting the workload and lack of boundaries. Once he saw the pattern clearly, he could interrupt it. He started saying no strategically. His stress decreased dramatically, and his actual productivity increased because he was focused on high-impact work instead of spread across dozens of low-value tasks. How to build this habit? Set a specific time, either morning or evening. Make it part of your routine. Write it down. Thinking about it isn't enough. Writing engages different parts of your brain and reveals patterns you can't see just by thinking. Be honest, this is for you, not for anyone else. You can't fix what you won't acknowledge. Look for patterns after a week or two. Review your entries. What themes appear repeatedly? That's where your work is. Self-examination isn't self-indulgence. It's strategic awareness that allows you to make better decisions and release what's not serving you. Strategy 9. Identify toxic attachments. Not all attachments are obvious. Some masquerade as loyalty, love, or responsibility. But underneath, they're draining you and keeping you stuck. Toxic attachments come in many forms. Relationships where you're constantly giving more than receiving, where you feel worse after interactions than before, where you're accepted only when you meet specific conditions. Possessions that you keep out of guilt or obligation, that create more stress than value, that represent who you used to be rather than who you are. Beliefs about yourself that limit your growth, about how the world works that keep you playing small, about what you should. Do that conflict with what you actually want? Grudges against people who wronged you, against yourself for past mistakes, against circumstances that didn't go your way. Identities that no longer fit but you're afraid to release because you don't know who you'd be without them. The first step is identifying these toxic attachments. Most guys have never done this systematically. How to identify toxic attachments? Notice what drains you. Pay attention to your energy levels. After spending time with certain people or engaging in certain activities, how do you feel? Energized or depleted? Examine what you're defending. What are you making excuses for? What requires constant justification? That's usually a sign of toxic attachment. Check for reciprocity in relationships. Is there balanced give and take? Or are you constantly accommodating, adjusting, and giving while receiving little? Ask, does this serve who I'm becoming? Not who you used to be. who you're trying to become. If it doesn't serve that vision, it's probably toxic. I know someone who realized he was toxically attached to his identity as the responsible one in his family. This identity meant he was constantly bailing out siblings financially, managing family drama, and sacrificing his own goals to maintain family harmony. Once he identified this pattern, he could see how it was preventing him from building his own life. He didn't cut off his family, but he did set boundaries and release the toxic attachment to being the family savior. Strategy 10. Set boundaries on your desires. We live in a culture of manufactured desire. Every day, you're exposed to thousands of messages designed to make you want things: products, experiences, lifestyles, relationships, status symbols. If you don't actively manage your desires, they will manage you. You'll be in constant pursuit of the next thing, never satisfied, always attached to achieving or acquiring something else. The Stoics had a radical solution. Practice wanting what you have and what you can control, rather than constantly wanting what you don't have and can't control. This doesn't mean becoming passive or unambitious. It means being strategic about what you allow yourself to desire. Distinguish between desires that serve you and desires that enslave you. Serving desires align with your values and drive growth. Enslaving desires create dependency and dissatisfaction. Example: desiring to improve your health through consistent training serves you. Desiring to have the perfect physique that you compare constantly to Instagram models enslaves you. How to set boundaries on desires. Practice the 30-day rule when you want something. Wait 30 days before acquiring it. If you still want it after 30 days and it aligns with your priorities, consider it. Most wants evaporate with time. Examine the source. Is this desire coming from internal values or external pressure? Are you trying to impress someone, fill a void, meet someone else's expectations? Calculate the full cost. Every desire has costs beyond the purchase price: maintenance, time, mental space, opportunity cost. Factor all of this in. Practice gratitude. Regularly acknowledge what you already have. This reduces the constant sense of lack that drives endless wanting. I know a software engineer in San Francisco who was caught in this trap, making good money but constantly wanting more: bigger apartment, nicer car, latest tech, expensive hobbies. He was making 6 figures but somehow living paycheck to paycheck and feeling dissatisfied. He started practicing gratitude and examining his desires. Realized most of his wants were driven by comparison with peers and trying to signal success. Once he stopped feeding those desires, he found he was actually satisfied with much less. Started saving money, felt less stressed, and ironically felt more successful because he wasn't constantly chasing the next thing. Strategy 11. Use creativity as an outlet when you're struggling to detach from something. Creative expression can be incredibly therapeutic and effective. Creativity allows you to process emotions, explore new perspectives, and channel energy that might otherwise go into rumination or unhealthy attachment. This doesn't mean you need to become a professional artist. It means finding some form of creative expression that works for you. Writing, music, photography, woodworking, cooking, design, anything that allows you to create something. Why creativity helps with detachment. It provides an emotional outlet for processing complex feelings. It focuses your attention on creation rather than rumination. It builds confidence and sense of accomplishment independent of external validation. It connects you with parts of yourself that aren't defined by your attachments. I know someone who went through a difficult divorce and was struggling to let go of resentment and regret. He started woodworking, something he'd never done before. The combination of learning a new skill, creating tangible things, and having a meditative activity helped him process the divorce far more effectively than talking about it endlessly. How to use creativity. Choose something that interests you, not what you think you should do, but what genuinely sparks curiosity. Focus on process, not product. The goal isn't to create masterpieces. It's to engage in creative flow. Use it to process emotions. Let your creative expression be a container for what you're feeling and working through. Make it regular. Even 20-30 minutes a few times a week creates meaningful benefit. Creativity reminds you that you can create new things, new perspectives, new versions of yourself. That you're not stuck with what is. You can build what could be. Strategy 12. Accept reality without resistance. This might be the most important strategy on this entire list. Stop fighting reality. Most suffering comes not from reality itself, but from resistance to reality, from wanting things to be different than they are. Your ex has moved on, but you keep hoping they'll come back. That's resistance. You didn't get the promotion, but you keep replaying how it should have gone differently. That's resistance. Someone wronged you and you keep wishing they hadn't. That's resistance. None of this resistance changes reality. It just makes you suffer more. The Stoic solution: accept what is exactly as it is without adding the layer of resistance and wishful thinking. This doesn't mean you like it. It doesn't mean you won't work to change it if possible. It means you start from a foundation of accepting reality rather than fighting it. How to practice acceptance. Notice the word should whenever you think this shouldn't be happening or they should have. You're in resistance. Reality is what it is regardless of your shoulds. Ask, can I change this? If yes, focus on changing it. If no, focus on accepting it. Practice the phrase, "It is what it is." This sounds like a cliche, but it's actually a powerful acceptance practice. When you're fighting reality, say it. It is what it is. Now what? Find the lesson. Even in situations you can't change, you can usually find something valuable, a lesson, a growth opportunity, a new perspective. I know someone who got laid off from a job he'd held for 8 years. He spent weeks in resistance, angry at the company, at his boss, at the unfairness of it all. This resistance kept him stuck and prevented him from moving forward. Finally, he accepted it. This happened. I can't change it. It's reality now. Once he stopped fighting that reality, he could focus his energy on productive things, updating his resume, networking, considering different career paths. Within 3 months, he'd found a better position with more pay and better culture. But none of that could happen until he stopped resisting what had already occurred. Acceptance isn't defeat. It's the foundation for effective action. Closing, we've covered 17 powerful strategies for mastering detachment. 1. Create intentional distance. 2. Distinguish between needs and wants. 3. Apply cold logic to emotional situations. 4. Embrace change as the only constant. 5. Focus ruthlessly on what actually matters. 6. Accept impermanence. 7. Create new experiences. 8. Practice daily self-examination. 9. Identify toxic attachments. 10. Set boundaries on your desires. 11. Use creativity as an outlet. 12. Accept reality without resistance. And 5 more we explored: developing resilience, cultivating healthy relationships, reflecting on your legacy, confronting your fears, and focusing on internal control. These aren't just concepts to think about. They're tools to use, strategies to implement, practices to build into your daily life. But here's the reality. Knowing about these strategies won't change anything. Only practicing them will. Detachment isn't something that happens in one dramatic moment. It's a skill you develop through consistent practice. Small releases compound into major transformations. So here's your challenge. Don't try to implement all 17 strategies tomorrow. Pick one. Just one that resonated most strongly with you. Maybe it's creating distance from a relationship that's draining you. Maybe it's practicing daily self-examination. Maybe it's accepting a reality you've been resisting. Choose one and commit to practicing it deliberately for the next 30 days. Then come back and tell us which strategy you chose and how it impacted your life. What changed? What was difficult? What surprised you? We're building a community at Strength Within of men who understand that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is release what's holding you back. So engage, share your experience, support each other in this work. If this video provided value, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We're creating content that helps you build the internal strength and clarity that separate men who thrive from men who stay stuck. The ancient Stoics proved that you can live with attachment to your values and purpose while releasing attachment to everything else. They showed that freedom comes not from acquiring more, but from needing less. That strength comes not from holding on tighter, but from knowing when to let go. You have finite time and finite energy. The question is, will you waste those precious resources carrying dead weight? Or will you travel light, focused on what actually matters, free to build the life you want? The choice is yours, but it starts with letting go.